I'd like to welcome Revati. Revati, I have read up so much about you and seen all your YouTube videos. And I must say, it's such a pleasure to finally connect with you, though digitally. And I hope that in better times we can all meet in person. I'm not going to go with this script. I'm just going to speak impromptu about Revati based on whatever I've read up. And she's truly, truly an inspiring woman leader. She created Asia's first taxi service. So she's absolutely a fabulous entrepreneur who's received many, many accolades, many awards. The list goes on. She's been on the cover of Fortune, Forbes. What's interesting is that there's a book on her called Who is Revati Roy? And a 30-minute film which has been anchored by Anurag Kashyap called Rags to Riches. And we're all going to see her very shortly, her story in a movie made by John Abraham. So, this is a woman who wears many hats and has done remarkable work in the field of women entrepreneurship. She's trained more than 2,000 women as taxi drivers and plans on reaching a number of 1 lakh and more very soon. So, with that, Revati, thank you once again for joining us this evening. And I have a few informal questions. If I've missed out on anything, please feel free to add whatever I may have missed. So let's start with a very general question on tell us about your entrepreneurial journey. How did it all start? What triggered the entrepreneurial journey? And then I know you've done multiple things. So tell us about everything that you have ventured into.
First of all, thank you so much for having me on this. And Namita, your uncondition yourself is something that I have watched and it's wonderful. So we are mutually fond of each other. So thank you so much for having me here. Well, my entrepreneurial journey, like you said, you've read a lot, but for me to put it in a couple of minutes, let me just tell you that entrepreneurship sometimes is a designed career, you know, but sometimes it just happens, and you don't know that you're actually becoming an entrepreneur. And also, nowadays entrepreneurship is so much more formatted and so much more structured. There are so many platforms for people to, for children or youngsters to actually start their journey. I don't think in my time, I mean, I'd say my time because I'm now 61 years old. And at, when I started about maybe 14, 15 years back, we didn't have these kind of platforms. I mean, even to make a business plan, which was probably just an Excel sheet, it was tough. I didn't know all that, but of course I learned it. But I learned it during my course of becoming an entrepreneur. So the story is this: I didn't have any great skill, which one could. I was not an engineer, not a doctor, not an architect. I was not technically anything great that I had. The only thing that I was really fond of, and I think I do it extremely well, is driving. I don't think that anybody on this earth can drive better than me. And I'm very, very pompous about it because I really think that I drive very well. And my passion is cars. I get very excited when I see vehicles. I just love to have a steering in my hand. And I'm a professional rally driver. So I've done about 85 car rallies. I've won 80 of them. So for me, rallying was my passion. Cars was my passion. I mean, children used to go to college to get degrees, and I wanted to turn 18 to get a driving license. So, my fundas in life were all different. But I never ever thought that I could build an empire with driving. It was so simple that, of course, I started with a very, on a tragic kind of situation because I lost my husband in 2007. And after he was in a comatose state for about 2.5 years, and then he passed away. And I really didn't know what to do because I was 47 then. At 47, to enter a corporate world, even with I'm a master's in economics. But at that point of time, at an entry level at 47, no one's going to take you because you really don't have any kind of experience. Today, things are different. Today, people may want you to join because you had some experience, but things were very different that time. So the only thing I really thought of was, why don't I drive a taxi? Because reason being, I'm a teetotaler, I don't drink and smoke. So I was a perfect bakra for all my friends to drop them back after they got drunk. And it is such a ungrateful job, because if you ever called any friends to ask whether they've got over the hangover, they won't even remember that I dropped them. So, it was one of those days that I was taking some of my drunken friends home, and, somebody kept, backseat driving. And imagine somebody doing that to me, because I think I'm the best driver. And imagine somebody actually telling me how to drive. I got so angry. I got so angry. I said, I think I should start a cab service. And that cab service should be only for girls. So that it's just happened like a bingo moment in my life. And that was one of the things that actually made me just say that, forget it. I'm going to, I was in deep debt. My husband, because he was had been in a comatose state, we'd spent crores of rupees on him. So there was no money. I had children to bring up. So there was really nothing that I had. And, so it was crazy. It was just crazy about how things were going. And I didn't come from a really, I had another social issue, uh, which was kind of social ostracism, you can say, because when my husband was in a comatose state, and I had, we I had no, I all our money was blocked. We had a joint account, and I had no access to that money. I had borrowed some money. I couldn't return the money. There were some cases filed against me. I was put behind bars. And, it's not easy in India for a woman to come out and actually live a normal life. So post that, I actually set up my business. And you can imagine the kind of social ostracism that one would have had to go through to do whatever, I had to do to set up my own business. So the concept of the um, women's cab service also actually initiated when I was behind bars. I saw a lot of women in prison who were there for multiple reasons, and they had already got their bail, but they never had 5,000 rupees to pay and get out. I used to see that, and I used to feel, what if, these people, not these people, anybody can just get skilled? What if they stand on their own feet? They can do so much more. And it was a spark which came into my head when I was there, actually. That I said, I must empower women with a skill. That's how I actually started. I said that, I have a skill. I have a skill which I can actually impart to other people, other women, make them stand on their feet. So my entrepreneurial journey really started from there, and I launched it sometime in 2007 March on International Women's Day. And then we've of course grown.
That is so inspiring, Revati. And, thank you for speaking with such candor about the personal challenges that you
Yeah.
faced, which in a way inspired you to become who you are today. So that was spoken with such absolute humility and candor, which very few women can do. So thank you for that. And
There's
that
nothing to there's nothing to hide, in the sense that I I mean I those days were very tough, extremely tough. But that's what I want to bring out, that, however tough the days are, there is hope.
But what helped you? That just brings me to another question. What helped you in those dark moments to find that inner strength? So, we all have to look for inspiration somewhere. It could be a person, a situation. Who's your inspiration? Who's your role model? What made you look positively when you were going through some of these darkest moments?
See, I admire a lot of women, men. I admire you too. And, but I when it comes to inspiration, I get inspired by anybody. I mean, I actually get inspired when one of my girls who tells me something. But if I very strongly believe, very, very strongly, that if you keep looking for inspiration outside of you, you're going to find a reason to fail. Because, you may get up one morning and say that, I look up to that lady or man or whatever, but she didn't inspire me today. So today my day is not good. I very seriously look at inspiration within myself. I think every moment, and it's not that I don't have bad moments. Of course, everybody has bad moments. There are days when you get up with a sick feeling, you get up with a sinking feeling. However, I'm sure everybody does. Whether you have money, you don't have money, you have children, you don't have children, you get up with those kind of so the what kept me going, in those dark moments was, I think, I used to just cry initially. I was there for, I was in the Baikla jail for 45 days and then five different police stations for a total of 45 days. So it was 3 months. I used to shut my eyes. There were days when I just spent crying, just spent crying. I mean, I just thought, I said, I don't know whether I'm ever going to go out. I didn't know the legal system. I didn't know anything. I didn't know. I had never been to a lawyer's place. I didn't even know what it looked like. I never been to a police station. I didn't know what it looked like. And so it was like I said, my children were outside. My children were, growing up on their own. My husband was in a coma that time. And I used to feel the thing that I prayed for was is to keep praying that let him be okay, because I don't want to be in this situation here. And if something happens to him, what am I going to do? It's going to be terrible. Really speaking, what kept me going was I one fine day decided no crying anymore. I am sure that, I will come out of this. I am dead sure I'm going to come out of this. And I said to myself that come what may, now let it be. There's somebody, my mother was working for me to get me out. My family was asked, doing everything they could. It was that one hope that I am going to change lives. That dynamic moment which changed me was when I kept seeing those women and I kept saying that these are the lives which I have to change. That kept me going. And I said, I have to go out and I have to make sure that I am okay, to make sure that I'm able to change thousands of lives.
That is so beautiful, Revati. And talking about all these women and the lives that you've changed, quick question on do you think it's very challenging for women to be in the workforce in India? Because, the women workforce participation used to be 37% and it came down to 27% pre pandemic. I'm afraid to think what that number may be if a post pandemic survey is done. So, do you think in India it's very challenging for women to be in the workforce? And what are some of those challenges? And how have you helped your women overcome these challenges?
So, Namita, I think fundamentally women coming out in a social, contours of the way we live, the social fabric of the way we live, it's invariably that the women are looking after the house, whether you like it or not. Whether it's a Nita Ambani, whether it's a Michelle Obama, you, whether it's Namita, whether it's me, you would be worried when you step out of the house to think, what is my child going to eat when they come back home? Very simple and very basic. We are fortunate to have help at home. So, women coming out is definitely difficult. Multiple reasons, biological reasons, childbirth. The families have to move on. What does one do? She is going to give birth. She is going to get pregnant. She's going to, she's going to be, she has to stay at home. She's lost her time. She's lost her time that time. What does she do? So it is very difficult for women to come out. And as far as how we have, kind of got hold of the situation and try, because we are an all women organization, so we face it even more than anybody else. And I see simple reasons like I have to attend the PTA. If that woman does not go for the PTA, I mean, she might face terrible problems at home. Terrible. So we have to also make sure that she's balancing. So we do a lot of mentoring, a whole lot of mentoring. And for us, the kind of work that I do with women is related to a skill acquisition. I'm not saying that a sales job is less important. There's a lot of skill needed in that also. But here I'm talking about a technical acquisition of a skill, which is driving and riding. It takes a little more than anything else, because also these most of these girls come from the below poverty line families. Who would want to become a driver? I mean, you if they have a KPO job or a BPO job, they would rather take that than take a driver's job, because driver is not the most idolized job even in any segment, and that too women. Imagine. So when I started, I actually became a cab driver myself. I drove for 10 months as a taxi driver, and probably the best time of my life. Because I love driving, it really didn't matter to me what I was doing. So women do have a lot of more difficulties than men to come out of the house, and we have to accept it. If we build an ecosystem within the families of supporting them, I think that really helps. But we're still a long way off. But it's improving. I'm sure it's improving.
And that brings me to an important question. So because I think we just have 5 minutes left. The question I'm always intrigued when I meet inspiring women like you is the reason we named our YouTube channel Uncondition Yourself is because we felt that there's a lot of childhood conditioning, social conditioning, where women put a lot of barriers, and self sort of limit themselves. And we want to break these taboos. We want to destigmatize a lot of issues and empower women. So, what is the one advice that you would like to give our women in India? And the one thing that you feel they should do. So my advice always is that women are great at time management, but terrible at guilt management. And I've suffered from this disease myself, right? And it took me a long time to get over it, and to become my productive and positive self once I got rid of that guilt. So what is that one uncondition yourself, or that one taboo you want to break, or that one advice you want to give to our women today?
In most of my talks, this is a very cliched thing that I speak normally, when somebody asks me about it. Dreams are free. Women must learn to dream, because unless you dream, I don't think it's even possible to think about what you want to do actually. So I think one must first uncondition yourself that that you're not supposed to dream about yourself. What do you want to do? Or where do you want to reach? And I think that's what is my advice to every woman, wherever they are on the face of this earth. Dreams are free. Please dream, and dream big.
Oh, that is so beautifully said. I just got a message from a couple of people that take 2-3 more minutes. We want to hear more from Revati. So that I believe is a very positive sign. You spoke about a couple of setbacks in terms of your husband's health and the time you had to spend in jail. Can I also ask you for a failure or setback you faced in your ventures as a professional or as an entrepreneur? That was really tough on you, and then how you overcame that?
Oh, plenty. I mean, I think one a day. So I think every entrepreneur faces not only problems, disaster. I mean, I think I have been disastrous at some decisions that I've taken. Uh, but yeah, I accept that I've taken the wrong decisions. I was not born uh, to not make mistakes in my business, so I made them. The biggest challenge was, is, always will be when your business plan says that you want to grow exponentially at 10x, but your funds are never at 10x. So I think one of the biggest problems we ever face is finance, and that happens in any business. And also, especially we are a very heavy capex business, because we have vehicles, we have, so how do we invest money? Nobody's going to give us money as a startup. So you'll end up, sharing. I also had my first venture was wrongly done. So, there's so many.
What was that venture? The first venture?
Same, the cabs only. But I just
Okay.
was not equipped to handle problems. I sold off equity at nothing. When you're younger and when you're a first time entrepreneur, you think that the first person who comes to you is the best investor that you have. So you're willing to give away anything that you want just to get that name. I also did it. So, but went wrong, drastically went wrong. Realized it very quickly. Didn't make that mistake again. So
you always learn, right? And how many cities are you operating your taxis in, Revati, now?
no, I don't do passenger movement at all now.
Okay, so
I am
this is
into
a core
logistics
business now.
My logistics, I'm doing last mile delivery. So we're doing last mile delivery for two-wheelers and four-wheelers with almost all e-com companies. And so when you see girls coming riding on two-wheelers and delivering, that's what we do. We were in 12 cities pre-pandemic, and
Fantastic.
we've had to shut down 10.
Oh,
So yeah, but we're slowly getting back. We're getting back.
okay.
Because, and for us, the bigger problem is that, as social distancing norms are what they are laid by the government, across India, we are into a business where literally, when you're teaching, you have to have that proximity, especially two-wheelers. We're not allowed right now to do the training. So
So two-wheelers is mostly on motorbikes or scooters?
we've almost moved into EVs.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are a very dynamically progressive company in terms of keeping with the times.
And
So,
EVs is not giving any issues in terms
oh
of
my God,
charging the batteries and all the other issues.
they are just fabulous. I mean, with petrol prices at 105, we are good with EVs.
That is truly fantastic. So you're not just an entrepreneur, but an entrepreneur with a conscience who's symbolizing green energy, sustainability,
It's
environmentally
very,
conscious businesses.
it's amazing. I mean, when we started off, I started with just two EVs, but I mean, it's like charging a mobile. you know it's just and also the kind of business we do is geofencing kind of thing. We're just within 5 to 7 kilometers. At most we'll do 50, 70 kilometers a day, each two-wheeler. So it's more than enough for a battery to be charged. So,
Wow. See, every question I ask, I learn something new. But Revati, this has been truly fabulous.
Uncondition yourself.